Welcome to the September 18th, 2018 episode of Reactive Consciousness, the in-depth podcast about what happened this week in our lives. I am your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And OldManStompy.
And boy, was that a struggle to get out. So anyway, that'll be our secret sound.
So many false starts to this podcast that are lost to the ether.
We should just have a whole podcast of that and people reacting to that.
I have so much trouble getting up in the morning. Every day I have to go to work that some days I just sleep until 10 and then I roll out of bed and do Corrective Consciousness.
Oh, is it time for Corrective Consciousness already?
I guess I'll get up.
If this is the thing that keeps you going, I'm very sorry for you. I need to do it for my fans. There are no fans of you, OldManStompy.
Maybe if you do Alundra 2 on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, come on.
God.
All the Alundras.
What a disaster. I look at that game every time I see it, because I see it at Video Games in New York every time we go to one of the major East Coast conventions, and I kept thinking to myself, like, is this the day that I own Alundra 2? And I think, no,
it's not today.
Not the day.
Is this the day where I buy Lunar Dragon Song? That's always what I'm...
OldManStompy's too busy petitioning for Dual Hearts 2.
What's the Lufia? There's also a Lufia game on the DS that's also terrible and like a shame to its series.
There's also there's a long proud history of DS and 3DS games that ruined franchises. There's one I think it's the Growlancer series has an entry that just came out in 3DS only like a year or two ago, and apparently is like god awful, like one of the worst RPGs ever. Just terrible. So
sorry.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. But anyway, we have a lot of stuff to talk about this week. Like stuff that was announced like right after we posted the recon for last week. So the big thing there is we found out what the new SNK game was. It is a new Samurai Showdown game, which I think they kind of forecasted that by putting a Samurai Showdown character in the Gals Fighter game. But this is really cool. It's a I think they're using the Unreal Engine for this, and it is a 2.5D game, so it plays like an old game but has 3D graphics, which is cool. I'm all for it. I mean, the Samurai Showdown series hasn't had an entry since the 360, and it was a terrible 3D game. So
yeah, the last traditional Samurai Showdown game was on like PS2.
Yeah, there was there's been a bunch of 3D ones, and I think Samurai Showdown 6 was the last major one.
I think you're right. Was that the one with like Ben Franklin with a rifle?
Not Ben Franklin. That was Andrew Jackson.
Andrew Jackson. That makes actually a lot more sense.
You're in the right territory.
Andrew Jackson.
That was either 6 or 5 special. It's one of the two.
Yeah, it's one of those. Because like I have the collection. The collection was available on the PS2 and the Wii. I have the PS2 version, the anthology, and like that was in there. I think it was slightly censored though. It had the censored versions of the games that were released like to the public, but it's still a good damn good anthology.
So that was a good anthology, but it didn't have 5 special. It had 1 through 6, but not 5 special.
Yeah, which is kind of a shame.
Well, 5 special was for a long time a Neo Geo exclusive, so it only recently got a port to PS4, which is great. One of the best games in the series by a lot of people's metrics. But this new one looks great. I mean, they haven't announced a whole bunch of characters or anything. I mean, just basically your your popular character, your main character, Hawamaru. But
yeah, Nakaruru, obviously. I think they showed a few characters, but like
nothing new.
They're people you'd expect. They have like what was the guy's name? Like Galford, the American guy who actually spoke English in the trailer, which was kind of cool.
You know what? I'm woefully deficient in Samurai Showdown, other than knowing the characters from like
Capcom versus SNK 2. Yeah, so Hawamaru, Nakaruru, and nobody else.
Well, actually, most of my knowledge comes from Capcom versus SNK Match of the Millennium on Neo Geo Pocket Color. So that's where my knowledge comes from.
Oh, so they might have had a little more.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I think that for a long time, SNK has only made King of Fighters games because they barely hung on, but it seems like they've had enough resurgence in the past couple of years with KOF doing decently. Yeah. It still has a dedicated fan base. KOF 14 has a pretty decent fan base. So they have a couple new games, and they're making a lot of money off of the arcade ports on Switch.
Yeah, actually, speaking of which, if they are making money off of arcade ports, then that is a good thing. But that was leading to a question I was going to have, actually, which is sort of a two-part question. The first is, I wonder how this new game is going to play, because Samurai Showdown has always been traditionally a much slower game than a lot of fighting game contemporaries, because it's very like your jumps are kind of floaty and you do single slashes that do heavy damage, and there's that like moment of impact, like hit, guy gets pushed back, like combos are possible, but like you can hit someone and then you can hit them again. So I was also going to wonder what the reception would be to this new game if it plays like the traditional ones, because everyone's going to be like, I'm afraid everyone's going to be like, oh, this is so slow, this isn't even close to King of Fighters or Street Fighter, even though it was not supposed to be.
Well, I think that's where its strength lies, actually. Samurai Showdown has been is more a deliberate fighter, just like you're saying. Last Blade and Last Blade 2 are even more so. It's more on the side of Bushido Blade, but not
where it's like one or two hit kills.
Not as extreme as Bushido Blade, but it's up there. Now, Samurai Showdown has always been more deliberate than King of Fighters. And that's well known, but I think that's where its strength lies, because if you're going to try to go up against Tekken and Tekken 7 and Street Fighter 5, you're going to lose. They have the budget and they have the audience, but if they carve their own niche for themselves, where they have a more deliberate space, plus more people are realizing how good those old titles were now.
They're not
bad. A lot of people are talking about Bushido Blade now. Lots of people are talking about Bushido Blade now. In fact, so much so that I'm very surprised somebody hasn't made like a spiritual successor that's on its level.
Yeah, how many Bushido Blade games were there? Two?
Two.
Okay.
Two technically, and then they're like kind of games that got the the sequel to Landstalker treatment. They were kind of made by similar people, but like Alundra. Like OldManStompy.
Actually, one other thing I'm wondering about Samurai Showdown is that, like, traditionally, at least in the arcades, it's quite a bloody game. Like, I wonder if they're going to keep that going, because I remember in one of the arcade games, it was like, I forgot which, it was like 3 or 4. Like, midway through a match, I just cut my opponent in half, and I don't know how I did it, and we were both like, what? But, like, yeah, that's a thing.
It's not really necessary anymore. I should say for this particular game, it makes a lot of sense. But there's nothing. It's not necessary to avoid blood in games anymore like it used to be, because it used to, like at that time, be in games largely for like shock value.
Yeah.
In the SNES into the early like PlayStation N64 era. Mm-hmm. There were the quality of graphics was such that it was like easy to put like a blood sprite on something and like make it look kind of mature.
Yeah.
To ride the Mortal Kombat wave. Now blood tends to be in games for a reason, because that's the atmosphere they're trying to convey. Mm-hmm. So, if you're slashing at each other with samurai swords, then yes, there probably should be blood.
Yeah, well, no, that's the thing, though. I mean, it is true that censorship is, like, for blood is nowhere near what it used to be, but I'm wondering if they're going to keep that thing going, because, like, every single one of those games, including up to the PS2 and Wii releases, were pretty censored. So, like, I mean, maybe Sony will be more forgiving than Nintendo, but I don't know, they both kind of jumped on it last time, so I don't know. It would be nice if we could get the actual intended product. I guess it's being released for console. Is this the first game in the series that was released well, the first traditional fighter that was released specifically for consoles instead of arcade machines?
No, King of Fighters 14 I don't even think had a arcade version, and if it did, it was not a thing really that people sought after. No, this is going to be a console game. This wasn't announced for arcades.
Okay.
So my guess is that this game is going to be a return to form for Samurai Showdown, and if it isn't, it's a huge mistake.
Yeah.
And there's been so long since a traditional Samurai Showdown game that it really should be a maybe an older style game with new tricks. So
it's been about a decade.
The best games in the series are 4, 5, 2, 4, and 5 special are considered by many to be like the best games in the series.
4 was damn solid.
So if they emulate the style of those games with maybe a little bit of playing around with the system, I think they have a winner. People will be into it.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see what they do. But I'm optimistic. I mean, they did a really good job with 14, even though they had a rocky start. They turned it into a really good game. So I'm all for it. Plus SNK's like, the scrappy little guy that is still hanging around somehow. So
yeah. Now they just need to release SNK versus Capcom like SVC Chaos 2.
I can foresee something like that happening now that like Tekken got everybody to cooperate.
That was another game that it lost to Capcom versus SNK 2. I think partly because it was just very slow and clunky compared to Capcom's like much faster high-speed play, but it was cool because it had largely like a very different cast. It had like different Samurai Showdown characters. It had like Kasumi from Art of Fighting 3, while Capcom vs. SNK 2 had Toto from Art of Fighting 1. It was like weird little changes like that. Like SVC had Earthquake from Samurai Showdown, and I'm like, whoa,
good stuff. Yeah.
Earthquake left the Samurai Showdown series for anything? That's crazy. it had Violent Ken.
There's probably some room for a slower and more methodical style of fighting game, just because that's the direction that like the mainstream of gaming is moving into a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of the single player games, like the Dark Souls like games, and the Monster Hunter games, they reward that kind of like planning ahead and very cautious, like wait to your motion and like high consequences for your action, like being able to be killed in one hit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like the opposite of the Ninja Gaiden, like Devil May Cry era, where you go in guns blazing and literally. Yeah. Well, no, it definitely rewarded high level play, but it was all about how quick you were, not like about like counterattacking and making sure that you placed really good hits, because that one hit that you're going to get in is going to be like the thing that affects the game. But yeah, I think this is great, and I'm very happy as an SNK fan. I'm of course a casual to hardcore fan. I'm not a hardcore fan, but I would say that I'll buy it when it comes out if it gets a good reception, for sure. I of course am not an early adopter in any sense of the word for fighting games, because I have no idea how to tell a good one from a bad one a lot of times. Other than I like pushing the buttons and having the fun.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I can only really tell if like a fighting game is clearly good. Like there's a reason everyone's playing this, and even with my low level play, I can figure it out. Or if a game is like really bad, like it's just not fun to the point. Like I don't need to be an expert to tell this,
Exactly. Well, we should move on because there's tons of other things to talk about, mainly the Nintendo Direct. So I really think this is awesome. They announced a lot of really cool shit here. So Luigi's Mansion 3 was the big one. Was a big thing from the very start. So they kind of foretold that with the Smash announcement last time. They had the Luigi's Mansion thing going on at the beginning of that, so they kind of forecasted that too. So they're playing a meta game with us as well. But that's really neat. I mean, and they're adding a 2-player mode to Luigi's Mansion 1 for 3DS, which is pretty cool.
Who's the second player? Like EGAD?
No, it's like a green apparition version of Luigi. It's not like...
Okay, so it's just like whatever,
else.
shut up, it's fun, 2 players.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, yeah.
I think maybe he might acknowledge that there is a apparition Luigi following him around.
Can player 1 suck up player 2? It's just like, it's a ghost, and then just game over for player 2.
Who knows?
So when I watched the opening of the Direct, I really thought we were getting another Smash Brothers character announcement, that it was like Isaac or something, like one of the short list of things that the fans have always wanted that didn't already get announced, like K. Rool and Ridley.
Yeah.
And that, because of the Castlevania one from the August Direct, that it would kick off some kind of like theme to the Smash Brothers character announcements, where like Luigi dies at the start of all of them.
Really amazing.
That would be cool.
That's
like
cool. I don't know what's
how
a bit...
Aeon Flux dies at the end of every episode.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't know.
The Smash announcements have been like extremely violent, with one notable exception that we'll get to in a little bit later. In terms of like how they treat the existing characters, like Mega Man gets fucking like disemboweled in the Ridley reveal trailer.
Yeah. I mean, just like that. Like, if Luigi did die at the beginning of every single trailer from now on, I don't know what would be a bigger snub, that or just like the very conspicuous absence of Waluigi, and they just keep running with that joke.
Like his purple hat just shows up.
Yeah,
constantly.
He's an assist trophy. Shut your mouth. Like, God,
remember that he didn't make it into the song when they showed the original "Everyone Is Here" trailer, and they showed all 64 like currently announced Smash Bros. Characters.
Oh,
they put
wow.
They put Luigi in at the very, very, very end, after the song was already over.
The eternal understudy, Luigi. No, actually, I saw a really funny like Photoshop of, like, it was just a shot of Master Hand, and then they like zoom out the camera and zoom out more and more and more, and you see it's just a giant
it's
Waluigi,
yeah.
and it's just the Master Hand is his glove, and it's like, oh, he's confirmed for Smash. It was like really stupid.
That's funny.
Yes.
Well, there are quite a few things here that I was really excited about. The biggest one for me was Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle, which I was super excited about. So I am a huge arcade port game fan, and I'm an even bigger Beat 'em Up fan, and I'm an even bigger Capcom Beat 'em Up fan. So there are some great games on here, and some new games that had never been ported officially. So I'll go through the list here. These are all pretty similar in style, but they're a lot of fun, and they're at the top of their game. I mean, Capcom Beat 'em Ups are second only to Streets of Rage in my book, so I am super excited for them. So the perennial favorite Final Fight is going to be on there. You can't poo-poo that. Final Fight is a fantastic, fucking great game.
Final Fight guy or go home.
Oh yeah, give me a nerfed version of Final Fight that was rare.
I was gonna say, but it's worth so much more. That's why I want it.
Yeah, there's a reason for that. That's such a weird financial decision. Let's cut one of the characters out of the game, and later on, you know what? We'll cut out the other character and put that character back in. And you know what would be awesome if we only let Blockbuster release it? You know, that would be really cool.
I mean, there's no way that a Super Nintendo beat 'em up could support 2 players.
Bad fucking decision. That's such a bad port of that game. I actually don't even own it anymore. I have Final Fight 2 and Final Fight 3 on SNES. I don't have the first one, because why would I ever play that version?
Because the amazing box art. Are you kidding me? Where
No.
Hagar and the Goon are just staring each other down. I know Final Fight Sega CD has even
That
better box art.
is way better.
But that SNES box art is still, that is damn good. It is.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of the "you son of a bitch" like Handshake and Predator. It's like the manly stare down instead.
Oh yeah. Well, you also have King of Dragons, which is a good fantasy style beat 'em up. Captain Commando, which is a fantastic beat 'em up.
That's pretty rad, yeah.
I love Captain Commando. That's a good game, and that's a 4-player game. I should add.
Oh really? That supports the multi-tap?
Well, not on the Switch, but sure. Why not?
Well, no, I meant like, did the SNES one support 4 players?
No.
Oh,
the
okay.
arcade version is only 4-player.
Okay.
So, you have Knights of the Round, which is Final Fight, but fantasy style one with King Arthur's characters.
Was that the one?
Really cool.
Was that the one where you like upgrade your stats or something after each level, or you get a better sword or something?
I don't think you can upgrade in that game.
I might have been confusing it with the. I might have been confusing it with a different. Was it my thing with like King of Dragons or something? Is that what it was?
Well, King of Dragons was what we went over, but that's probably right. I believe that King of Dragons is probably what you're thinking of.
Okay, it was one of those two fantasy beat 'em ups.
Yeah, no, Knights of the Round is more straightforward Final Fight.
Knights of the Round takes fucking forever when you summon them in Final Fantasy VII.
You have Warriors of Fate, which is a lesser-known one, which is based off of the Dynasty Warriors story, the Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
I can't believe the Super Nintendo game ripped off of Portal 3 Kingdoms from Magic the Gathering.
Oh boy! But the big
I don't even know where to start with that. Like,
yeah, I can't believe real life ripped off of Magic the Gathering.
Anyway,
sorry, that one took a minute to like germinate.
Yeah.
Ugh. More like ferment. So anyway, the two big ones, big surprise here, Armored Warriors and Battle Circuit, which have never been ported before.
Yeah, I never even heard of those.
So Armored Warriors is the beat-em-up sequel to a fighting game on the Saturn.
Oh, jeez.
Cyber Warriors or something like that. I forget.
The thing is, that's such a generic name that, like, maybe I've heard of it, or maybe I haven't, but it just sounds like something I could have easily come across. It's like every Steven Seagal movie, like, the titles are all the friggin' same. I don't know which one is which.
You would know this from Marvel vs. Capcom with Jin. Jin is from that series.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I did know that Jin came from some game we never got, where he just summons a giant fuck-off robot fist and just clears the screen with it.
Yeah. Let me look this up real quick. But Armored Warriors is a lot of fun because you could beat up other mechs in it.
Nice.
And you could pick up their arms and like co-op them for your own. So that's really cool.
That sounds like... Didn't the Sega Genesis game offer something like that?
Yeah, you're probably thinking of Side Battler or something like that.
Something like that. I think the game was like just okay, but that concept was brilliant.
Yeah. Cyberbots Full Metal Madness was the fighting game.
Okay.
And that was the sequel to this. So there we go.
All right.
But we got that straight. So you negative Nancys in the comments can't bring us down here.
Yeah, don't you know where Jin's from? Jeez.
And then there's Battle Circuit, which is actually one I've never played. So I'm excited to play that. That's another 4-player one. So most of these games are CPS2 games, meaning the Capcom released all of their games basically on the CPS1, CPS2, and CPS3 configurations for their for arcade games. So amongst CPS2 games are the Street Fighter Alpha games, for instance.
Okay.
CPS1 games are games like Ghouls and Ghosts and the original Street Fighter, Street Fighter 2. All of those games, and then there's like CPS 1 Plus games, and so Final Fight is a CPS 1 Plus game.
Okay.
Just most of these games are CPS 2 games, and people collect those kind of like Neo Geo MVS cartridges. They kind of are modular. You could buy them and put them into a base, which is pretty cool. In Japan, they're releasing a special edition of this collection that comes in a CPS2 arcade box. You know what they were shipped in?
Oh, that's cool.
And it comes with a book that looks like a CPS2 cartridge, which is really, really neat.
Yeah, I love little things like that.
Yeah, and it's actually coming with the cartridge. I must also let you know that these are all coming with online play, and they are all coming with other notable features such as They're coming with both versions of the game, like the world version and the Japanese version.
Oh, actually, that was one of the things I was going to ask about. That's cool.
Yeah, so this is a fully fledged, really well executed collection. Like, I already know it's going to be good. There are a few notable exclusions which I want to go over. Mm-hmm. Stuff that I figured would never happen anyway, but it's worth mentioning that it kind of stinks that we'll never get them in there. So Dynasty Wars is the first one. Warriors of Fate is the sequel to Dynasty Wars, so that's not in it. The Punisher beat 'em up is not in there for obvious reasons. With Marvel. The Marvel license.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's like Nintendo releasing a collection and wondering why the Batman game isn't on there. It's like, come on.
Though there is some kind of hope, which I would like to go over. Capcom still has a really good relationship with Disney. They made the Disney Afternoon Collection not that long ago, a year ago. So they still have a relationship with them. Maybe you can hold off for a premium DLC for that, but I wouldn't count on it. But there is an outside chance that may happen. I think that would be neat. Aliens vs. Predators: The Real Shame. That's probably the best game out of all of them, and that obviously has rights issues with probably Dark Horse and Fox.
I forgot about that one actually. I like because that never even got a home release, did it? So I always forget that game exists, even though from what I've seen, it's a legitimately good beat 'em up.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. And then there's Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, which is another rights issue. That was a comic book.
Yeah, it was comic as well. And then it had that mediocre Sega
TV
CD
show.
game. Well, actually, yes, but also
two
Sega CD game, which was one of those.
Two Sega CD games.
Yeah, what was the second one called? Like More Cadillacs or something?
Yeah, and they were both bad. Yeah, they were.
Yeah, I've only really seen the first one, and it's one of those FMV it's like Road Avenger or Revenge of the Ninja, where you just react to what's happening on screen, except it's just not great.
Yeah, no, it's a bad version of what that is, which wasn't good.
Yeah, Road Avenger is probably the best of its kind. Revenge of the Ninja and Time Gal are pretty good. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs,
Yeah. I will say that I'm buying this right away. I am a huge fan of arcade collections, and even more so when it's stuff I want, an unusual thing. But even better when they curate them well, which looks like to be the case. I'm not buying the limited edition, the Japanese version, but I think that's really cool that they're doing that. It's going to be expensive, so I'm not doing that.
I saw some people posting about it, and that price is outrageous, but it's interesting.
I would do it if I had infinite money, for sure.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. It's like, well, if I'm a millionaire, then sure, all the limited editions.
But I mean, I am getting the Darius limited edition because I don't think that's coming out in the U.S. at all.
Wait,
so,
Darius was what, Taito?
Yes. So there's a Darius collection coming out on Switch, and they haven't made a U.S. announcement, and I don't know whether it's going to happen. And the limited edition comes with extra games, so I was just like,
okay.
So and they're like really rare, stupid rare games, most of them. So it's a good thing to own, for the future, that kind of thing. But,
when are they going to release the Growl collection? Which is just
the one game.
Just one game. It's all you need, baby.
So we'll move on here because there's plenty to talk about. They are remastering the original Katamari Damacy and putting it on Switch, which is a good home for it.
Yeah,
really
that not to mention if they add like option for, well, I don't even know if motion controls really make sense for a game like that, because I think
they're in it, I believe.
They are doing it anyway. Like, that's still a clever idea.
Well, they managed to make controls like that sort of work for the first mobile release, I think it was.
Well, yeah, for the PSP,
Katamari.
but that's true, but that game was designed with that in mind. The original Katamari, adding motion controls is like, maybe, like, I guess you could make it work.
It would play largely the same as like even the PS3 version. Like, mostly all you do is like turn your phone your Switch like a gyroscope.
Yeah.
And flip it to make it jump.
PSP was like Touch My Katamari, right?
No,
PS
that was me and
Vita.
my Katamar.
PS
The
Vita
Vita
was
one
Touch My
is
Katamari.
Touch My Katamari.
Oh, Vita was Touch My... Oh, okay. And the Switch one is... What was it called?
It's just Katamari Damacy Deluxe or something.
Reroll.
There we go. That makes sense.
Because those were all sequels technically. This is a remastering of the original game.
Yeah, it is kind of funny that there's like, if you really, really want to look into it, a kind of continuity.
Yeah, I mean, really, just roll up shit and have fun.
I know, like, it doesn't matter. Like,
I don't.
I watched my friends in college play the first 2 games, and I think I saw a bunch of the third, and even with that, I don't think I realized that there was any continuity between them. It's just like, you know, in the first game, some little kid's just like, whoa, weird shit's happening in real life, and then you roll stuff up, and then you see more weird shit with the family. It's like, it doesn't matter. Just play the game.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say that the PS3 one was probably the best. There was
that was really good.
Because it was like a remastering of the first 2 games, but like in HD.
Yeah, it was like a best of collection, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there were 3 games up to that point. The 360 one wasn't well received because of the controller. It just didn't feel right because it has the offset.
Sticks.
Analog sticks, and there was a lot of like really stupid DLC with that game. So like people rebelled against it. But the PS3 one, everybody really loves.
Yeah, it was kind of like No More Heroes on the PS3. It's like HD version of the first game, and you know what? Let's do a couple fights for No More Heroes too, because that's cool.
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
So I'm down for that. And then there were some more ports here. New Super Mario Bros. U on Switch, which I'm really glad that almost all the Wii U exclusives are coming over to Switch. I would love to live in a world where I never have to use my Wii U ever again. I think the Switch is better than... I mean, I love the Wii U when it was out, and I played it, and I was a big champion of it, but...
Well, it's redundant now.
It not only is it redundant, but like it has so few exclusives that like...
Well, anymore, yeah.
We're getting... like, I would like to totally replace it because the Switch is everything and more, right?
Well, see, the funny thing is, I feel the exact... I mean, like, your logic is the correct logic, but I just feel the opposite way because I haven't yet bought a Switch because it's still, like, $300. So for me, it's like, well, I already have everything on Wii U. Why do I even need a Switch? So I'll buy a Switch when, like, it actually starts getting exclusives. Like, right now it has, like, 3 or 4 I'm interested in. It's like, well...
Lotus, correct logic is the only logic.
Technically correct. The best kind of correct.
But this is going to be a really good port. So not only is it the original New Super Mario Bros. U, but it also comes with Super Luigi U. And,
I was actually wondering about that.
It does, and it comes with extra characters. So
will the box be half red and half green?
No.
Well, fuck it. Fuck the whole thing.
It won't be half anything.
0 out of 10.
So Nabbit's going to be in it, and they are replacing Buckenberry or Alec Gold, I forget which one, with Peachette, which is, or Toadette, that turns into Peachette, which, what the fuck?
I was going to say, that raises some questions. What's a Peachette?
So, yeah, people are wondering about what the implications of... Which there are none, of course, because Nintendo's just having fun, which they always do. But when Peachette collects a crown, she becomes... Toadette collects a crown, she becomes Peachette, which will give her the powers of Peach and appearance of Peach.
That is so weird.
So she becomes like... That's her superpower, is to become Peach, I guess.
Well, how does this factor into the lore of the 30-year Mario legacy?
So it turns out that Peach was once a lowly toadette and put a crown on, and there you go.
There you go.
but also she's Bowser Jr.'s mother, supposedly.
Well, no, even in Mario Sunshine, Bowser admitted he was lying about that.
Well, they kind of poke fun at it by having... I think they actually had Bowser and Peach play against each other in the advertisement for the Nintendo Switch Online.
Yeah.
And they had, like, Bowser, like playing with his son, and they kind of...
Oh, I did see that.
They used the juxtaposition of those 2 images to, like remind you that potentially, canonically, if they decide to, they really could make Peach Bowser Jr.'s mother, you wouldn't have any leg to stand on if you
Actually,
wanted to dispute this fact.
Well, actually, in that regard, though, when they were showing how you could play with your kid on the Switch, and Bowser's like regulating allowed playtime and stuff, and having fun with his kid playing Mario Kart and hitting Mario and laughing, like wasn't his phone's backgrounds like Peach?
I mean, it would be.
Yeah,
it was pretty funny.
He's pretty much obsessed with her.
Yeah.
But the really cool thing about those diagrams was that they had Luigi beating Mario in a game as well, which was pretty fun.
That's obviously impossible and never happened.
No, I mean, like, it would make sense that Luigi would be good at, like, the nerdy thing, and then Mario would be good at, the physical thing.
Actually, that is true. Luigi was really good in learning basic history facts, and Mario was missing, and crossing the street on the sidewalk. For the longest time, I thought the game was broken or something when I couldn't cross the street, because I would hear a car beep anytime I tried, and it's like, no, stand on the sidewalk, and I'm like, shut the fuck up. Even though you're right, like, get the hell out of here.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, there are only there's the Devil's Third, that's still languishing on the Wii U. But
yeah, so obviously Switch is unnecessary. Well, also no, for real though, there is
Fatal Frame is probably the big one for me.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that, but like the one that people actually care about. I mean, my care is Fatal Frame, but the one that the general populace cares about and is very conspicuously absent is Mario Maker.
So that will come back, because that was a big hit on Wii U.
Yeah.
That was a huge hit for a Wii U game. People were really into that game, and there was a big...
that was a system seller.
YouTube and Twitch scene around that. So they would be idiotic to not bring that game to Switch.
You know what I really enjoyed is, Igarashi, the creator of Castlevania?
Yeah.
Yeah, he made a Mario Maker level that was just the same platform design and enemy placement as level 1 of Castlevania.
Oh, neat.
And he called it Castlevania. Like, that's really amusing.
That's really cool. I like that kind of stuff when they bring celebrities on to do like a cool little thing. There was a group of 3DS or DS game. It was 3DS eShop games that famous directors of games made, and they were just like little games, and they were a lot of fun. Like Inafune made one, Suda51 made one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Just real fun stuff, and like they were short little games, but they were a lot of fun.
Nice.
The guy who made Final Fantasy Tactics and Final Fantasy 12 and Vagrant Story, he ended up making one of those games as well. And that was
did it star a young blonde shirtless guy?
It might have. What was cool about it was it had like a D&D aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
So like you played the game, like your characters were actually like moving around on like a D&D setup, like in the world that they were in. Mm-hmm. So it was like a dungeon that was set up like by a D&D player, and you actually rolled dice, but they were still talking to each other like they were characters. So that was pretty neat, that game. I think it was called Crimson Shroud.
Nice.
That was a really cool game. I enjoyed that. Couple little things. I don't know why they keep doing this, but they keep releasing 3DS games. I know why they're doing it, but it kind of stinks. Because I don't want these games to be on 3DS.
Yeah,
but,
put it on the Switch. Give me video out. Help me out here.
Exactly.
I mean, I agree with you, but also, like, I think the Switch is terrible as a handheld console right now. I can't stand... After the 3DS and the Vita, like, being a large part of my gaming life, I have so much trouble going back to the Switch. It has no battery life whatsoever. It feels very fragile. And, like, it's a great system. Like, I like it, and I'll probably get adjusted to it, but I feel like it needs a hardware revision. It has much worse battery life than even the first generation 3DS, which had terrible battery life for a handheld, and like among the worst, like Game Gear levels of life. And it's very frustrating to me. Like I hate feeling like my handheld system has to be tied to an outlet. So I like the Switch as a console, and I don't mind that these, like, I know the 3DS is a very dated console, but it's got a huge installed user base, and
yep.
Nintendo's managed to make it all this way having a healthy handheld user base and a healthy console user base. And I appreciate what they're trying to do with the Switch, but I don't think it's there yet.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this before on the cast myself, but like whenever I finally do get a Switch, I'm not even going to acknowledge it as a handheld system. Partly because I'm a Let's Player, but also like, just no thanks. Like, it's a handheld system, but wait, I can play it on the TV. Like, okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
So it's also that the Switch, I think, so people are starting to report that the thermal cycling of bringing it in and out of TV mode is starting to warp the console, which is a pretty dire thing to be happening when it hasn't really been, a system all that long.
Yeah.
I will completely agree that I think that it definitely needs its DS Lite revision for sure. It's my favorite system right now for sure. I play it constantly, and I play it mostly in handheld mode. But I also play it in handheld mode in my house. I don't play it on the go. Sure. I don't think I'm unique in that. I like playing portable systems in my house because to be social, that kind of thing. But I think it for sure can use a revision, just like you said. It needs a battery upgrade, and I think the next iteration will be great. The thing that's going to hold back an iteration here is that they are tied to the Joy-Con. Unless they completely revamp the Joy-Con and leave them as legacy Joy-Cons, they are going to have a hard time making a new one, a new shape.
Well, I'm sure it's possible to make the Switch as it is, with roughly the same form factor, but with better battery life as technology improves. And one other, probably the thing that frustrates me the most, and something that I would consider to be a almost a mortal sin on handheld design when compared to the last few generations, is that the Switch discharges considerably fast when it's not plugged in, which the 3DS doesn't really do.
That's
you
true.
can leave the 3DS in sleep mode for weeks.
I can confirm.
I've noticed that.
You can leave the Vita in sleep mode for months. It barely discharges at all when it's in sleep mode. Whatever the active memory is, it doesn't take any battery power. But the Switch, you leave it alone, and if I leave it overnight, it's already at 60% if I wake up. So I have to go back and plug it in every single night if I'm playing it in bed or something.
I gotta say, handhelds are not my jam. I've made that clear 100 times. But I gotta admit, when it comes to the 3DS, when we're playing Triforce Heroes or whatever, or when I turn it on for 20 minutes to do one dungeon or do my check to see if I get the random item in the chest or whatever. I leave that, I turn the game off, I power it off, I leave it unplugged, it just kind of, it just seems like a matter of course that when I turn it on, there's still a lot of battery life left, and when it finally alerts me that there's low battery, I'm like, oh, it has been a couple of weeks, actually, so, it weirds me out that other systems discharge way faster.
And that's good, because it's actually really unhealthy for your battery if it does anything that discharges actively, but you keep it plugged in while it's turned on. That's that does reduce the battery life over a long period of time. So the fact that you don't have to do that for the 3DS, it helps keep the system alive. It helps keep the Vita alive. The Switch doesn't have that advantage.
Yeah,
I think it's going to age faster than people realize. People who expect to be playing this console through the next console generation are going to run into problems faster than they're used to, especially for Nintendo consoles, which are usually well known for being incredibly well crafted and practically bulletproof, or the equivalent of bulletproof, idiot proof, user proof, something like that.
Yeah, sure. No, I agree. It does need a revision, but I still love it. I'm all about it.
I love it too. I wish it was better.
Well, that can always be helped. I will buy the next reiteration, no problem. But the games that were announced for 3DS are actually 2 enhanced ports. Pardon me. So you have Kirby's Epic Yarn for 3DS, where they are adding extra content to that with extra characters. Pardon me. That follows in the footsteps of Yoshi's the Yoshi's
So this is this game came first. Kirby's Epic Yarn. It was a Wii game or a Wii U game.
It was a Wii U game.
It was
I
a
believe.
Wii game.
It was
A
regular.
Wii game.
Oh,
Right.
that's right.
And
Yoshi's
then
Woolly World was Wii U, I think.
Yoshi's Woolly World is a Wii U game, and now the new one, Yoshi's Crafted World, is a Switch game. And I really liked this take on the Kirby aesthetic too. Like Kirby, usually aside from the bosses are pretty easy. Like the stages are pretty easy. So like having a somewhat a game tilted towards like younger fans, it still had like a completion aspect for older fans to enjoy. Plus like a
that was interesting.
cooperative element. Like it was beautiful. I love that game.
Yeah, it was very much like the Lego games where you can't permadie. It's
Right.
just a matter of how much stuff you have when you beat the level. If you get hit, you lose coins or whatever the equivalent is in Kirby. So like, you either do really well at a level or you just grind it a bunch. So it's not like a gatekeeper for younger kids.
Yeah, and Woolly World. Also, yeah. Oh no, continue.
I was actually referring to the fact that Yoshi's Woolly World was ported to 3DS with extra content. A while ago.
Okay.
That was what I was referring to.
I will say though, like going back to the
Yoshi and Poochie.
yeah,
Yes, exactly.
No, I will say going back to the ported though, like that is one thing that really does bug me because it's like Hyrule Warriors where they took games that were on consoles and then ported them to inferior consoles with more content. And it's like, I don't want to play it like that, especially Hyrule Warriors, which couldn't even the 3DS couldn't even handle the fucking game. So it's like
this I would also agree with. The 3DS, like as much as I love it, it's also they've pushed it about as far as it can possibly be pushed, even with a full hardware revision to a new system with games that can only be played on that system. Game Boy Color-esque. And like it's at the end of its lifespan. Just I don't think the Switch is ready to take it over on the handheld side. I wish they had another handheld. Or a better Switch.
I mean, again, this is just me being annoying, but if they had a new handheld with video out, then my complaints would just be over.
Yeah, me too.
I don't even care if it is a handheld. Just give me video out, and I am done. Like, that's it.
No, I mean, that's actually my major problem with them releasing games on the 3DS, especially games that I would want to play, is that, hey, I want to play these in their best way.
Yeah, like, I don't want to either hold my hands all the way up to my face or bend my neck down at the screen. Let me just sit in a chair and look at a screen and use the 3DS or whatever it is as a controller, and we are just golden.
Yeah. I have a problem with it, only in that regard. I mean, I just bought a 3DS game last week, and I felt kind of weird about it. I bought WarioWare Gold.
Oh, sure.
And I'm a big WarioWare fan, so there's no chance in hell that I'm not buying it, but... I'm also like a big Rhythm Heaven fan. I'm a huge fan of like Nintendo's mini games in general. So I love their mini game collections, especially the goofy ones. And
WarioWare's hilarious.
All the WarioWare games are great. I love them.
Like I've only really seen the Wii game, the original Wii game. What was that? Shake It, but that game was fucking incredible. Oh, Smooth Moves. That game was legendary.
Yeah. They're all a lot of fun. The Game Boy Advance games are really, really fun. Twisted is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed Touched when I played it. That was the DS one. There was also a couple other DS ones as well. There's Snapped, which is, by all accounts is the worst game in the series. That used like the camera functions of the DSi.
Oh, Snapped. Okay, that's clever, but
PS3. And then there, or 3DS. I'm sorry. And there's also the 3DS one where it was the DIY game. So.
Oh yeah.
It was like Mario Maker, but WarioWare.
Yeah, pretty much.
Exactly.
Yeah, do it yourself. Yeah.
So that's cool, but like I said, I would love to see this on Switch as well. And then there's also Bowser's Inside Story, which is a lot of people's favorite in the Mario and Luigi games. A lot of people really love this one, and that's getting a 3DS remake.
What was it originally? Regular DS?
Yes.
Okay.
So they skipped over. It's kind of funny. They remade the original game, and then now they're remaking Bowser's Inside Story, but they skipped over Partners in Time, which is kind of weird.
Was that game so good it didn't need a remake?
If you ask me, I thought
apparently it was really damn good. But...
My favorite of the Mario and Luigi games is the second one. It's Partners in Time.
Was that GBA?
No, it was DS.
Still DS. Okay.
It was an early to mid DS game. Bowser's Inside Story was a very good one as well, but Partners in Time just had a really cool mechanic about it because you were controlling, Baby Mario and Baby Luigi and Luigi and Mario. So you used the 4 buttons.
Okay.
A really cool way to do all kinds of different combos, and I love that aspect of it. And it also was really funny on top of it all. The writing in those games has generally always been solid.
The Mario RPG games has had consistently actually laugh out loud writing.
And it's not even writing; it's like direction because the Mario brothers don't speak. They just they speak in
pantomime.
but I also convey so much emotion that it's hilarious.
But even in Mario RPG, they pantomime, so Mario just turns into the characters he's talking about. It's pretty clever.
So we have a few other games here. Mario Tennis Aces is getting a major update with new characters and online modes and multiplayer modes. So I'm excited about that. That game must have done really well. So in order to get a big update like that,
that is one of the Switch exclusives that I very much want.
It's a good game. I really enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun.
This is it is something that Nintendo should really be commended for, because this and Splatoon 2, Nintendo has really gone above and beyond in a world of games as a service where you're expected to pay for a season pass for DLC for games for the first year after it comes out. Nintendo gives you all that shit for free every time.
Yeah, it's a good move.
They did that with ARMS as well. They added much more content to that game than they expected to.
Yeah, wasn't the beauty of it with stuff like ARMS there was DLC, but didn't you buy it with in-game currency, so you weren't really paying for it?
You never had to pay for any of the DLC in ARMS.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking Bomberman R or something.
Yeah, you are, but they added a lot of content to that game too.
They did,
free.
Yeah.
So I am all about this Nintendo as an ecosystem, creating lots of content for these games. I mean, even Mario Odyssey had some really good post-game DLC extra stuff, and even Zelda, even though you had to pay for a lot of that DLC, some of it came for free. Okay, and next up is Yoshi's Crafted World, like we had talked about. It looks like a sequel to Woolly World, and it looks like to be a fun game that you can run through in a couple different ways, a forward way and a backward way, which is pretty neat gimmick. I thought that looked really fun and charming. I was a big fan of Woolly World, so I'm all for a sequel type game or another game in that style for Yoshi.
Yeah, they had been trying to make a genuine sequel to Yoshi's Island. They make it on almost every console. They made Yoshi's Story for the N64.
Yeah.
They made one for the DS, for the 3DS, and or Game Boy Advance rather. And they weren't that great. They were farmed out to, I think, third-party developers that just didn't capture the magic. But Woolly World,
they were made by Artoon rather than Nintendo R&D one or something like that. So,
but Woolly World really hit it right on the nose. That's the closest thing that I felt to playing a modern version of what was good about Yoshi's Islands, with level design and everything on a modern console.
I agree, and I like the co-op mode in that a lot too.
Oh my god, I am a monster in the co-op mode. I just cannot resist just shooting eggs in everybody's face all the time.
It's fun.
Nobody wants to play the game with me anymore. So Mr. Ryu tried to play it along with me, and he bought the upgrade for one level that stops you from dying in a pit. So I would just knock him into Piranha Plant so he would die anyway.
Yeah, that's why nobody wants to play with you, for sure. But this game looks like fun. I'll probably end up buying it. I'm a big fan of Woolly World, so I'll buy that one as well. A big surprise here, Starlink. Did you guys see that?
Nope.
Yes.
New Star Fox game.
Sort of, yeah. I thought that was like a Star Fox, it's a different game, but it's got Star Fox like side stories in it or something.
Yeah, I didn't get the full gist of it, to be honest. I felt like I was missing a piece of information about it, even though I watched the whole thing.
Yes,
but
Starlink Battle for Atlas. It's an Ubisoft game. It's on the PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. It kind of reminds me of like Link. It kind of reminds me of Link having his character in Soul Calibur 2.
Okay. Gotcha. But it still looked cool. So, why not play a game like that with some extra Star Fox content?
Mm-hmm.
Which also means that they haven't totally given up on Star Fox, which is always a good thing, especially after you have a game that wasn't so successful critically or commercially.
Well, that's just like the Yoshi's Island thing. That's never stopped them from trying over and over again. They had, like, before that they had Command, which was also terrible, and Armada, which was not very popular, and like Dinosaur Planet, which is its own thing. Like, they really do not give up on Star Fox.
People are actually coming around on Zero. Actually, a lot of people are saying that it's a lot better than people originally thought.
Well, from what I heard, the game was always really good. It's just that, like, they forced, like, a stupid control scheme on it.
Well, it could just be like God Hand. Like, it just needs to find the specific audience that likes it a lot. That could be it. I don't know.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are praising it now for what it did. What it did that was well. Obviously, the controls are a sticking point for a lot of people, but I'm willing to give it a shot. I still haven't gotten a chance to get around to it, so I'll probably go back to it.
Same. Like, I did eventually buy and play Command. I did buy and play Armada, but like, it's so rare that Nintendo really swings and misses, even on the third-party versions of their franchises, that like it's hard to justify paying full price for it if it doesn't immediately look like a home run.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like Nintendo games take a long time to go down in price. They do not go on sale.
That's true, unless they sell like garbage, like Glory of Heracles or that one went down in price real quick.
They tend to retain a lot of value on the
Punch Out on the Wii is like still like $30. It's ridiculous.
Mario Sports Mix is still really expensive. It's like $35 if you could find it.
Yeah. Mario 64 DS is literally the first DS game, and it's like $30
insane.
still.
Yeah, I mean, well, there was a low print run on that because of the amount of DSs in the wild at the time.
Oh, it's still out. Like, they re-release it all the time. Like,
it's not good.
Well, I mean, it's the worst of two versions of Mario 64.
Yeah, but like, the controls are essential to Mario 64 and what made it special.
Well, yeah. So like the whole big deal was that the N64 had an analog control stick and digital. The analog thumbstick, right? And the DS has a regular D-pad, so you have to try to play a DS game designed for a joystick on a D-pad,
or with the touchscreen,
which is also bad. Yeah. So it's the same reason that everybody bought the Circle Pad to play Monster Hunter, because it's impossible to use the touch screen to control the camera if you really want to.
Didn't a bunch of people buy oh no, what was it? The Kid Icarus game, like specifically for the Circle Pad?
Kid Icarus. Yeah.
Yes. Well, let's see. Yeah, they called it the Frankenstick at the time before they had the new 3DS with it already built in.
Right.
The second iteration of the 3DS should have had that in it. I don't know why they didn't add it. It was so stupid. But anyway.
I mean, the camera nub is like still super awkward to use. It's not my favorite piece of control. Like,
it's better than nothing.
Yes, it's better than nothing, or having to attach an entire like controller around your 3DS just to play another game.
Yes, and one that communicates through the remote sensor in the top of the system and has its own batteries. Ugh. So
speaking of having a problem, like trying to charge your system, you've got a shell around your 3DS that has its own battery life. It uses the same plug, but like, man, you cannot take that thing anywhere.
Yeah, it was stupid. So anyway, let's see, and especially on a game that you want to be social and like.
I mean, I don't ever really like want to be social, but I like to be able to have
Monster Hunter. You want to be social with Monster Hunter.
No, I don't want to be social with people who play fucking Monster Hunter. That game is garbage.
All right, says the guy who bought the most recent iteration, almost immediately once it came out.
I've never been one to make like good life decisions, right? You shouldn't be, do as I say, not as I do. That's
yeah.
My
I mean, you are on this podcast, so I should already not trust you.
Well, you invited me. That wasn't a conscious decision. That was your bad decision. I
never wanted to be part of a club I've ever been invited to, so or wanted me to be part of.
Yeah, that would have me as a member.
Yeah.
Thanks, Groucho.
Yeah. That's it. Okay, so we ran over this week. So what we'll do is we will come back and talk about some more here about the Nintendo Direct. So please, if you'd like to continue listening to the discussion, move on to our regular slot here in CoreCon on Thursday to hear the rest of our discussion. We'll go over some major parts of Reactive Consciousness here and going over the Nintendo Online service with Switch and also the Final Fantasy announcements made. So please join us for our concluded discussion on corrective consciousness of these topics. So that is the show for this week. We want to thank we want to say please remember to subscribe to the Corrective Consciousness YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Thursday on our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on Steam, Xbox Live, PSN, Twitter, Switch, and Battle.net.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you're interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, or even selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or getting involved in a discussion with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And you can find me as OldManStompy on most major gaming and social media networks, or you can find me doing co-commentary with my sister on Asuna335 on Twitch.tv. You can also find me as Opus Aries in Final Fantasy XIV, or as Debutu no Mori on Monster Hunter World. Although, as will be explained in CoreCon, I probably won't be playing either of those very much next year.
Well, thanks a lot, and we will conclude our discussion on Thursday.
Until next time, everyone.
Cheers.